Okay, go.
All right. We have the time.
Okay. So this is group 27, and we have case 2. So this is our scenario. You and your team are caring for Lucy, a 32-year-old woman who was thrown from a Jeep's passenger seat 2 hours ago. She's in the ICU when the nursing supervisor comes to tell you that the patient's sister is pleading to be allowed into the ICU. Normally, visitors are never allowed into the ICU at night, but occasionally exceptions are made. Tonight, the ICU is empty except for this patient. You decide to let the woman's sister in. The visitor is near collapse and begins to say things that make you aware that she is not the sister. The nursing supervisor rushes in stating, "I have made a terrible mistake and this is the family behind me." They're very angry and demand this woman not be allowed to see the patient. The woman cries and tells you that her name is Mary and that Lucy's family disowned her because they were dating. Mary begs to stay because she knows that she would not be allowed to the funeral. She also states, "It is not fair that they have legal right to be family when I have been the one to love and care for Mary for the past 8 years."
So our first question then here is, what is the problem facing the team and individual? Right?
Okay, so part of the problem is that we have two different stories, basically. So we have one person saying that the family hasn't been involved. We have one person saying this girlfriend shouldn't be here. So
we also, in addition, have the problem that Mary lied initially and said she was the sister, even though she said even though she is not the sister.
Yes, which led to her being led into the ICU thinking she was family, and then when the actual family came, there were issues.
yes, yeah.
Right. And I think as the healthcare provider, or like the healthcare professionals here, the big issues for the team that we're faced with is which party is responsible for her, and to who do we owe this information, because we're taking care of one of their family members, and regardless, we're going to be doing someone a disservice if we assume that somebody is estranged or not, right? So I think that's the big conflict here.
Right. Yeah, because we don't know who's telling the truth, the girlfriend or the family.
And obviously the problem being that since Mary's not responsive, or Lucy's not responsive, we can't ask her ourselves what she would want in this situation.
Right.
Alright, so the next question reads, as a team, decide how you would address this situation.
So it says, this scenario says that she's in the ICU, but it doesn't necessarily say that she's like comatose or in a vegetative state. So we just kind of decided that what we would initially do is just remove all visitors from the situation. So the proclaimed girlfriend and the family, since we don't necessarily know who's telling the truth at this point, and we don't want the patient to wake up and be upset or angry over, we let her family in who she's like estranged from, or her girlfriend, or whatever the situation. So we decided that at this point, patient-centered care is like our priority number one in taking care of Lucy, and we'll kind of deal with the family drama later, albeit that she will wake up and that she's not in like a vegetative state, or we don't have to make like a decision at this point on who can like make decisions for her health care.
It also says that it's nighttime and we don't normally allow visitors to the ICU, so it's perfectly within our rights to ask them to come back in the morning, or that we can let them know when she wakes up.
Our decision.
Absolutely. And then after she's awake, you can explain the actual situation, then you can make a better call.
Right, because this whole thing happened, it says 2 hours ago was like when she initially came in. Obviously been a little bit longer since then, but we're still within the same day. And if we're at the point where we're able to let people come back and visit, we've got some wiggle room there, basically.
We do have the problem of since we have let the visitors in, of asking them to leave if the family doesn't want to leave, or if the family inquires why we allowed Mary in the first place. You could have drama or a problem in that sense in terms of explaining things, but our hope is that the family wouldn't give us a hard time for that.
We also want to ask the family like how they know that Lucy was in the hospital because that's information that's given out and that's probably a violation of HIPAA. So we have to figure out how they would know that Lucy is in the hospital and how we know if they are really family or not. So that's another issue that we're going to face across as well.
Yeah, I think you could say. Sorry, I think you could say the same thing for Mary too, right? Because that traces it back.
That provides more support to our decision as why we as a team would ask both to leave until we can figure out, and that will allow us to provide again the best patient care for our patient and allow us to have time to not only work on our patient but then to help them figure it out for what our patient would like at the time.
Right, because at the end of the day, we obviously want as many people that are involved in our patients' lives to be involved too in their treatment. But when it comes down to it, our obligation and like my job as a physician is to take care of Lucy. It's not necessarily to always. I'm not going to comfort her family at her expense if there's that possibility.
Right. Sure.
It also does say that Mary appears near collapse, so we may need to additionally check out Mary.
Yes.
And find out if she was involved in the accident in any way as well.
See what's going on.
Yeah, because it just says, I know she may have just been anxious about seeing Lucy, but it does say she's near collapse, so we should perhaps check her out too before we send her away.
Run a UDS on her or something. See what's going on.
Quick exam.
Yeah. I think it'd be interesting to see who her like emergency contact was, if there was any kind of information like that too. That could kind of point you in the direction.
Okay. Okay, the next question is, what ethical principles did you use to guide or justify your solution?
Well, obviously confidentiality is a big thing here. We don't want to give out information to people that aren't supposed to have it, so that's kind of part of our problem, is figuring out who we are supposed to be sharing information with.
We also use justice because it says fairness. So obviously the patient is our number one priority, but also like when it comes to the two parties that are the visitors, we're not like valuing one of their opinions over the other. We're saying, hey, you both have to stay out of the situation, and we'll involve you whenever we need to. But for now, like we're going to focus on the patient, and both of you can just kind of step back until we make a decision.
Beneficence is another one because even though that there's going on with the both parties, we need to focus on the patient. That's the one that's in the ICU, and that's who we need to care for. If we're going to give high quality care, we need to focus it on the patient and not the family members or the person that says that they're dating the patient as well. So beneficence is one of them.
Right.
Not only that, I think malfeasance is one that we definitely agreed on, to do no harm to our patient. And if we're focused on what's going on between the family and who the person is dating, then our focus is off our patient. And at that point, anything can happen in a split second. And therefore, we have to use malfeasance to get that out of the way and deal specifically with our patient to do the best that we can as a healthcare team at all times.
Right.
So I think our goal, is for the patient. So all of these other things that are happening, maybe around about this situation, do need to be secondhand.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting too, how similar the beneficence and the non-malfeasance are, right? Because both of y'all's points were very, very similar, but there's that little bit of overlap because there's the beneficence component where you want to do everything that you can in the best interest of the patient. You want their family to be involved. You want the people that care about them to understand what's going on to their daughter or their significant other or whoever it is. But at the same time, there's that little threshold where if you don't have all the information, you can go from trying to have some sort of action to promote good and cross over to cause harm, to do harm.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And I think that's when we try and make it more complicated than it needs to be, and we try and do too much, or kind of go outside the scope of actually just taking care of patients more directly. But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and I think the principle that we're kind of missing here is the autonomy piece, because obviously we want to do what the patient wanted for herself, but since we can't find that out, we also don't know who she would want to be her next.
Right.
The person to decide that for her. So
the lack of autonomy is why all of these other principles have been kind of jacked up, so we've had to rely on them so much.
All right.
Do y'all have anything else to add, or?
I think we're good. I think our solution is good and we feel so happy.
All right.
All right. Yeah.
Quick disclaimer: a few of us are coupled up because there was an audio problem and we were getting some strange sounds and noises in the back, so we just doubled
Hey,
up
everybody.
for that. But, all right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Good luck.
Good luck.